As Lauren said, I'm Rebecca Lang, and this is my third cookbook over here, Quick Fix Southern. It came out last spring, and I have a new one coming out in the fall, so hopefully I'll see y'all back next summer. But the new one coming out is a Southern living book. It's called Around the Southern Table. And I hope y'all don't mind. I'm going to stay right here in the shade. I'll wander over here, but I'm all sunscreened up too. But what we're doing today is fresh corn and tomatoes, which is one of my favorite recipes. And if y'all have not gotten corn this summer, we are right in the peak of corn time. And a lot of times when you go to the market and you buy corn, the best time to start with your corn and cook it is that exact same day, because the starches in the corn start to convert the minute that corn is picked. So the faster you can cook it, the better. And I always think if you're shopping in the grocery store, that corn has been picked at least a week ago. So anytime you can be at the market and cook, buy corn to cook, it's much better. So we're going to start out with a little bit of butter. And if y'all are trying to cook a little bit healthier, you can use olive oil in this recipe. It's absolutely fine too, but I love butter. So I tend to use a good bit of butter around our house. And we're going to put in some onion and some garlic first. And I wanted to show y'all the proper way to cut an onion. So what you want to do first is take off the stem end. And that's the end, as you know, that came out of the ground. And you're going to turn it upside down, and we're going to cut that root in half. So if you ever cut off this end of the onion, that's when that onion falls apart and you're chasing it for the next 10 minutes. So always leave the root end intact and just peel off the peel. And you'll know, obviously this isn't a problem when you're here at the market, but you'll know how fresh an onion is by how tightly wrapped the skin is around it. So if the onion has skin that's really loose and falling off, it's going to be a little bit older than it is if it's really tightly wrapped. And we're going to cut this into pieces. And I cut down towards the root and then just slice back perpendicular to that. Oh, thank you. You're looking after me. Let's do this. And I call in the recipe for a sweet onion, and that's because, honestly, I grew up in Vidalia country. My dad actually grew Vidalias on our farm, and I love a good Vidalia onion. But if you like it a little bit spicier, you can put in whatever onion you want. You can put in red onion, and it's so pretty in here. All right, and we're just going to saute the onion and the garlic. And I brought something to show y'all a little trick just to be a little bit quick and easy on your garlic, because I really dislike chopping garlic. I don't think it's fun. It takes a lot of time. And everything in Quick Fix Southern is under 30 minutes. So I like to take a shortcut where I can that's not going to compromise the quality of the food. So when you have a garlic clove, you can just tap on it and take off his skin. And what I brought with me is a little piece of saran wrap. That's my little person who is not enjoying my demonstration. Do y'all hear up there? So we're going to take a little bit of saran wrap, and you can use whatever you have on hand. It doesn't have to be anything, but the plastic wrap really works well. And I open it up and put the garlic clove in, and then wrap it loosely, kind of like you do an envelope. And then I take a meat mallet, and the garlic is minced, and this isn't dirty, so we don't have to wash that. And then you just take this straight out of here, and I use the back of my knife to pull it off and put it straight in the pan. And this way too, you don't smell like garlic for the rest of the day, which everybody loves. And I think my fire has gone out. There we go. So you just saute that, and while that's sauteing, I'm going to talk to y'all a little bit about the corn. And corn is a little bit time intensive just because you have to shuck the corn. Y'all all know how to do that. But one thing that is kind of a pain to me is trying to get off all the silk on the corn. And when you're shopping for corn, the blonder the silks that are coming out, the fresher the corn is usually. That's not always 100% accurate, but a lot of times it is. So look and see if they're really dark, then that corn is a little bit older too. But I grew up with Silver Queen as kind of my favorite corn. And I now have branched out. There's so many heirloom corns that are now in a lot of the markets. It's so nice. So you can kind of do, if you wanted to do several different corn varieties, it would be really good too. Let me put in, I've already got some corn that we've cut off the cob, and so we'll add that in. But the problem with the silks and getting it off is that you'll work and work and work and try to get them off. So here's your solution. And I brought it in the package today so y'all would believe me that I had not used it. But go to the store and get you a toothbrush. And what I do at home is I keep this in my kitchen drawer, but I took a Sharpie and I labeled on it corn, so everybody knows this is not going into the bathroom. So, but I didn't want to bring mine from home because I didn't want to stress y'all out. Let me put this in before I show you that. Look how pretty that is, y'all. And this has all this really good milk in it, and I'll show you that if y'all have not gotten the milk out of a corn cob. Does anybody have one of the old-fashioned corn creamers? Do y'all know what I'm talking about? It looks like a wooden, they used to be wooden, now they're making them stainless steel, but they're about this long. They look like a long strip. But for other recipes, if you ever have creamed corn, it creams corn better than anything else. And I actually use my grandmother's, but they're now making newer versions you can get at cooking stores. I know Cook's Warehouse has them. Okay, so here's the trick. Take your toothbrush, and if you just strip straight down, the toothbrush needs to be dry. Look at that. Do you see it pulling it off? So that is the easiest way to get the silk off, and it's super, super easy. So then stick this in the dishwasher just like everything else, and then just keep it in your kitchen. But I have done demos before where I brought my little corn toothbrush, and people don't like that so much. Because they're like, why would I believe her that she didn't use it this morning? So now what we're going to do is you want to put this in a bowl just to cut off the kernels. And one thing that makes it easy is to take a bowl about this size, obviously that would fit down in a big bowl. You can put the bowl in and put it upside down. I don't tell you this in the recipe, but this is an easy way to do it. And cut off the kernels this way. And I use a paring knife. You can use a bigger knife. Just use whatever you're comfortable with. And the milk on a corn cob is the juice that is actually down in here. So, and the fresher the corn is, usually the juicier it is too. And the milk is something that's, you never want to leave. It's like gold on there. So you can turn your knife backwards and use the back side to scrape down here, and the milk will start to kind of run out. Now you won't see it running out like a few tablespoons, but you can see the liquid on there. I think my flame went out again, didn't it? It is still there? Okay. With the sunshine, it's hard to see in there. Okay. And you're just going to put this in your pan to saute. That's the prettiest color yellow. I love this. And y'all, this is the recipe too. If y'all have okra, if you have peppers, you put anything in here. This is so easy that you don't have to worry about following the recipe exactly. Just make sure you have everything cooked enough that it's soft, and you're good. Now just because I told y'all I love butter, I'm going to put a little bit of cream in here, but y'all don't have to do that either, but it's so good. So we're just going to do a couple of tablespoons. And this is one of the things, I don't sell any kitchenware or make any money whatsoever on that, but this is one of the things I saw in a cooking store actually when I was teaching in Savannah, and I saw it at the counter, and I thought that's one of those things that's going to take up space and it's just junk in your kitchen. I use this more often. It's a little OXO 4 tablespoon, and a lot of brands make them. But to measure out liquid that's 2 tablespoons is difficult because it's pouring out of the spoon. It's kind of a pain. But these little guys, I actually went back and bought more because I couldn't get them out of the dishwasher fast enough to keep using them. So that's something too, y'all. They cost like $2 if you had stocking stuffers, or since we've been talking about Christmas this morning. He does? She just said Elton John uses those, so very cool.
Seen it.
Yeah, you've seen him doing it.
For cooking?
How fun. Or for something, we don't know. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to let this cook down a little bit, and I'm going to put in my tomato. And y'all, I'm kind of lazy when it comes to tomatoes. In culinary school, I went to Johnson & Wales, and every day at the beginning, you would have to concasse about 20 pounds of tomatoes, and I despise it. And that means to peel the tomato, seed the tomato, chop the tomato, and I just got over that real fast. So in my normal life, what I do now is I use a serrated knife because it's much easier, and I honestly just cut it into a grid. And y'all, I just got this last week. I'm so proud of this little knife. This is a tomato knife. Have y'all ever seen one? But it's perfect for tomatoes if you do tomato sandwiches because it has the little forks. You can slice it and pick it up and put it right on your bread. So this is like my new best friend. Obviously a necessity you can't live without, right? One of those things that I kept saying, I need one of those, and I didn't need one of those, but I sure do love it. And I'm just going to cut this down just like this. Y'all can see how I'm just being totally lazy with it. I have tomato plants in my backyard, and I planted 3 Cherokee purples. Have y'all had a Cherokee purple tomato? Because if not, you need to find one today and buy one. They are incredible. But on a sandwich, they're fantastic. And I woke up 2 days ago, and they were green. They weren't quite ready. Every one of them was gone. So I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out what in the world happened to my sweet, sweet tomatoes. You think it was the squirrels? Would they have taken the entire tomato and not left us?
Yes. I've watched them carry them across the street.
Seriously? Well, I had this huge conspiracy built up that somebody was snagging my tomatoes, and I questioned everybody in the family. Yeah. I thought somebody's been picking those tomatoes. I was so excited about those, though. I was getting really, really ready. Okay, I'm gonna turn this up just a little bit. And y'all, this is the kind of thing too. The more colors that are in it, the prettier it is, the better it is. I just loved adding those. And let's see, our tomato today. I'm looking on here to see where, from Riverview Farms. So if y'all love this one, that was my flame going out. I just heard that. I don't know if it's the, I may be out of gas, yeah. Okay, so we're gonna put in some herbs, y'all, and you can put in any herbs that you want, whatever kind of mixture that you want to put in. You don't have to do just what I have. We'll just swap out totally. Let's do this. Here, you can just turn yours on right there. How's that? Okay, and one thing with herbs, I always grow herbs at home too, and it's so much better just to be able to get a fresh whatever and not have to run to the store. I think that's great. And they have here where you can buy just bunches and take it and you can put whatever you want. So you can use any amount. You can put tarragon in here if you want to. You can use anything that you want. And when I'm chopping a large pile of herbs, this is one of the things to me that's really easy to cut yourself, because if you're trying to hold onto these and chop at the same time. And I use a fairly big knife. A lot of women use a little bit of smaller knife than this. But I hold here and then I hold here, so there's no fingers in the way at all. And you should never hear anybody doing this. If they're chopping like this, they want you to hear them chopping. So you should be quiet when you're chopping. So your knife should never leave your cutting board. So if this section of your knife is on your cutting board and you're rocking back and forth, you're not going to hear me chopping. That's somebody who wants a little bit of attention. And I always use chef knives. I have a Santoku at home, and I don't like to chop with it as much. I'm really comfortable with this one. But I think if you have a knife you like, it doesn't matter what size it is, that's the knife you need to use, because it's an extension of your hand. And the less comfortable you are with that knife, the more likely you are to cut yourself. And if you do cut yourself a lot, which I hope you don't, but if you do, if you have a sharper knife, you heal faster. So if you have trouble with them, just keep them sharper. All right, I'm going to put this straight back here. And I brought something from home I wanted to show y'all. It's kind of tacky, but it's one of my favorite things. I buy peppercorns in the biggest containers that I can buy them in. And spices in general, you buy the smallest amount you can because they're going to go bad. So I buy, McCormick even makes tiny, tiny little jars. So I buy the smallest one, and then I use them up faster and get fresh ones more often. But on peppercorns, before peppercorn is ground, it will last longer than you will. It'll be fresh literally until the day you die. I mean, it's going to last forever. But once it's ground, it rapidly decreases in quality. So when you go to the grocery store and you buy that pepper that's already ground, to me, it's almost like you just will scoop out your fireplace ashes. I mean, it's compared to real pepper, it does not taste the same at all. So what I do is I go and buy the biggest thing I can get of peppercorns, and I have a coffee grinder at home that I use, one for spices and then one for coffee. You can't go back and forth between the two, but one is black and one is white, so I can remember which one's which. But I put in peppercorns maybe every 2 weeks, and so I grind about, I don't know, maybe a quarter of a cup of peppercorns. And so I always have fresh ground pepper in my little jar, and I have this in a drawer so you don't see it. It's kind of ugly, but it's a pimento jar. But so I always have fresh ground pepper that I can measure out, because on an average pepper grinder, 32 turns is a half a teaspoon. And I have these people, I don't have time to turn 32 times. So this makes it much, much, much easier. And I'll pass this around so y'all can smell it. You probably all have fresh ground pepper, but the difference in this and the stuff at the grocery store, you'll be surprised. Now, don't take a huge whiff or we'll be sneezing for the next little while. But I just like it easier, and then I can measure it out. But I really love, I love the peppercorns that are the tri-colors. Oh, yeah. And they're kind of hard to find. Costco has them sometimes in the huge containers, but if you ever see them, buy them. And they're really pretty, and they actually have more flavor, I think. And I keep my salt in another pimento jar, and I keep the big container up in the cabinet. But I'm not a fancy salt kind of girl. I think people sometimes overthink the salt, and there's so much to think about already. Let's just not think about the salt so much. So this is regular iodized salt, plain old fancy salt. But I have like sea salt I use for finishing. I use kosher salt when I'm just grabbing it and throwing it in. But on an everyday basis, this is the salt that goes in everything that I make. And these measuring spoons, y'all, if y'all have the regular kind of spice jars, these are spice spoons, so they fit down in a tiny, tiny spice jar. And you can find these. These are everywhere. But if you look at the shape, if you need to measure out a teaspoon of coriander, you can't get in that jar without dumping it out, and then you waste some, and that costs so much money, then you're kind of at a loss. Okay, I'm going to give this a taste, and we'll give y'all a sample. Do y'all have any questions? Are y'all quiet and just burning up in the sun? I have spray sunscreen, so y'all can come get in line. We'll sunscreen you up too. And at the end, because all fresh vegetables, especially when you've got things this fresh, you might have to adjust your salt and pepper, so always give it a taste before you serve it. I think we're good. And y'all, I have my website up here. I'll tell it to you. And if y'all think of a question or anything, you can email me from there. I'll always answer you. It may not be that day, but I'll get back to you eventually. But it's RebeccaLangCooks.com. But anything, I mean, I have people email me cooking questions all the time. So I always like to hear, too, what you're cooking and all that fun stuff. So y'all don't have any questions? Yes?
Is your new book top secret?
It is not top secret.
You didn't tell us anything about it.
Ah, aren't you smart? The new book is called Around the Southern Table. And it just popped up on Amazon this week. It's up for pre-orders, but I think the discount's going to go down if you want to hold your buttons for a while. But it's a Southern Living title. It's 300 pages, 200 photographs. It's a big, big cookbook, and it's beautiful. The photographs they did such a pretty job with. So, and it's totally different than Quick Fix Southern in the fact that I think Around the Southern Table, you can actually put out on the coffee table if you wanted to and then take it in the kitchen. Or best case scenario, you buy one for your coffee table and you buy one for your kitchen. So that's what I would like. But Quick Fix Southern is super, super quick and easy. Anybody can start from scratch and do that. And it's a little bit different in Around the Southern Table where it's not necessarily all quick and easy for sure. Yes, ma'am.
You were talking about putting other vegetables such as okra or whatever. Do you want to put them in with the corn at the same time or do the corn ahead?
That's a good question. She asked if you have other vegetables, what time would you want to put them in with the skillet? And honestly, it kind of depends on what the vegetables are. Okra needs to cook a little bit longer because it can be fibrous. So I would put that in with the corn when you're cooking that 8-minute period of time. And if you had something really, really light and easy, like if you had even shallots or you wanted to add something to finish off, I would put bell peppers in the beginning to let them cook down. But you could even add, if you wanted to add a jalapeno at the end just to be kind of fresh and fun, you could put that in. So it kind of depends, honestly, on what the vegetable is. But okra in there would be phenomenal. I could live on okra and pimento cheese and just be done. So, y'all have anything, other questions? Y'all are quiet.
Well, I just wanted to say a couple of things about other recipes that I like in the cookbook. How many of you were here when we did the cocktail demos? Yeah, people were happy that day. She's got a lovely selection of things that can be fresh, farm-to-table cocktails. Chapter
There's a
2.
mint sweet tea in there that, I mean, if you went home with fresh mint, would be fantastic this afternoon, since it's going to be 150 today.
Yeah. You know, there's just really lovely, lime, mint, julep, and watermelon frescas, and easy and delicious. And we also do have sunscreen at the main tent if anybody's actually like burning. But
If you're roasting in your chair, yeah.
yeah, see, roasted corn,
Yeah.
roasted audience.
It's a theme today.
Super cute.
Thank you. And y'all, that book I wrote when my little girl was an infant. So that book has been tested through the craziest period of anybody's life. And if I can do that in 30 minutes, I promise you that you can. Because she was in the stage then, if y'all have children, where she was eating about every 45 minutes. So we were cooking and feeding and racing around. So,
Question for you.
yes, ma'am.
What could you use besides heavy cream in there?
She asked what could you use instead of the heavy cream, and honestly I would leave it out. Just, you don't have to replace it. Honestly, it's in there just for a little bit of richness just on your palate, but you could totally leave it out. You could start with the olive oil, not do the butter, leave out the cream, and you'd be completely fine. I just love the dairy, the good dairy stuff. Yeah, and 2 tablespoons. I mean, that's still, it still adds up. I mean, heavy cream's got a lot of stuff going on in there, but yeah, leave it out totally. You'll be fine. Half and half has less fat than whipping cream. I wouldn't go into milk because you don't want it to curdle or break in there. But yeah, you could use half and half if you want to. But try it without it. You might be surprised and not even miss it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you wouldn't know the difference. Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. She asked what protein would complement this the most. I've done this with grilled salmon and grilled trout. With fish, it's really, really good. And I've actually even served it over the fish. That's fantastic. With something heavier like pork or beef, because I like to keep it light and fresh because that's so summery. But you could do chicken if you wanted to, but honestly my favorite is seafood. And shrimp, you could actually take, if you had bought you some yummy shrimp, you could put the shrimp in the skillet and have that with shrimp, and that's a 1-dish supper. That would be really, really good. And you like it too. I have a Cavalier at home. I do. Mine's not a Ruby. She's a Blenheim, but she is a sweet, sweet dog. I wish I had her. I brought her today. That would have been fun. She's a sweet, sweet dog. Oh, I can't either. I'm glad you like it. Thank y'all so much.